Alright guys, in this video we're going to be writing systems and solving them by graphing. Now in algebra you're learning how to solve by substitution, by elimination, and by graphing. In the lab we're really just focusing on graphing. You can solve them any way though, it doesn't really matter, but I just want to give you this one way. You should have this paper, it's a note paper, and it has two word problems. These word problems, different numbers, come straight off of your Unit 7 test. So you're going to see these on that test exactly like this, and I'm going to show you how to solve them, and then we're going to practice today for your assignment. Now, I'm not going to work on here because it's small, so I'm going to work on this one so you can actually see what I'm doing a little bit better, as much as you ever can. You need to make sure that you have your note paper and a calculator. Go ahead and clear the memory so we can start fresh. So second plus 712 clears the memory of our calculator. Okay, so this is what we got. Let me read the first word problem and then we'll go from there. Karen has a jar of 55 nickels and dimes. The jar adds up to $4.50. How many nickels are in the jar and how many dimes are in the jar? So this is a system and I'm going to show you how to solve it. The first thing we have to do, and if you want to write down the steps on the side you can, the first thing we do is we write the two equations. Well, we have nickels and dimes. Now some of you are going to want to use N and D, and some of you are going to want to use X and Y. I'm going to go ahead and use X and Y just to show you. So I'm going to say X is nickels, so put an X above the nickels, and dimes is Y. So X is nickels, dimes is Y. There we go. Okay? How many total nickels and dimes were there? There were 55. So I'm going to put here X plus Y equals 55. Which means if I add up the nickels and dimes, there's 55. And then you have to tell yourself, well, how much is a nickel? Well, nickel is 5 cents. That is 0.05x, not 0.5. Biggest mistake kids make is putting 0.5. Plus a dime is 10 cents, so 0.10y equals the money. And they add up to a total of $4.50. So yet again, we have two equations. That's the first part. You could solve this by substitution, by elimination, all these different ways that you're going to learn in algebra, but you can also solve them by graphing, which is, if you were with me last semester, what we did before the break. So let's go ahead and draw our lines here, and we're going to solve them for y. Now, some of you, if you're not strong for y, pause the video and we'll go through this step together. If you feel more confident, go for it. There's no numbers here, so remember, if there is no number, the number's 1. So I'm going to add some 1s here just so you can see. So that's 1x plus 1y. And we're solving for y. So who's y's best friend? Well, the 1 is. So I need to kick out this guy. The opposite of a positive 1x is negative 1x on both sides. Okay? Those cancel out. I'm left with a positive 1y. So just 1y equals. Yet again, I can't combine these two things because these are different. So you have to write them side by side. It doesn't matter which one you put first. You could put the 55 first. I'm going to put the x first because that's what most math people will do. And then since it's positive up here, I'm going to put a plus 55. And then I got this 1 here. A lot of you are going to want to divide by 1. That's fine. I'm going to do that for you. But if it's just a positive 1, you can leave it alone. But a lot of you are going to feel more comfortable if I do this. So we'll do that real quick. We're dividing because the opposite, side by side means multiplied, and the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So let's go away. Y equals. You can use your calculator. I'm just going to use my brain for a second. Negative 1 divided by 1 is just negative 1x. And 55 divided by 1 is just still 55. So that is our first equation. Okay, that's great. And this is a lot of work. I'm telling you, this is the hardest thing we're going to do all year is this stuff right here. Okay, now the next one. I still have to solve for y. So this is y. The best friend's the 10 cents. So I need to kick out this guy. The opposite of a positive 0.05x is a negative 0.05x. Be very careful that you keep these decimals because if you lose them, your whole answer is going to change completely. Okay? These go away because they're opposite. I bring down my positive 0.10y. Yet again, I can't subtract these because this is an x and this is not. So we write them side by side. But I will always put my x first because that's what I do. But you don't have to. You could put the other number first. It doesn't matter. Plus 450. Okay, that's a 50, not an 8. You guys know I suck at handwriting. Okay, then I have to get rid of this. Side by side means multiplied. The opposite of multiplying is dividing by 0.10. So we divide everything by 0.10. Okay. Make sure you're dividing by a 0.10, not a regular 10, because that's also going to change your answer significantly. Okay. Those go away. Y equals, calculator this time for me, because I'm not that smart. We're going to do negative 0.05, so I put it right here, negative 0.05 divided by 0.10, which is what this says right here. We hit enter, and we get negative 0.5. You could write that, negative 0.5, or if you want to do a fraction, you could do math, enter, enter, and do negative half. I'm going to do negative 0.5, but it doesn't matter either way. So negative 0.5x, and then 450 divided by 0.10, go here, 450 divided by 0.10 is 45. So plus, sorry, positive 45, so we put plus 45 here. Alright, that's the hard part. And that, I'm not saying that's easy, that is hard. If you got that down, you're good to go. We have two equations. Our answer here is going to be where they cross. So this is the steps, and if you want to write them down on your paper, you can. You go to your calculator, you go to y equals, and you type in the equations. The first one was negative 1x plus 55. So I typed it in, it just comes from right there. And then we're going to type this one in. So we're going to put negative, oh I'm sorry, I put minus. Make sure you're putting negative. Negative 0.5x plus 45. And then I'm going to go to graph. And you're going to see absolutely nothing. Okay, so I don't see anything, which means I have to zoom out. Zoom is the middle button. Zoom. Out's the third option, so hit 3 and then hit enter. And your calculator is going to zoom out for you a little bit. So I start to see one line, and I see the other line, and they cross right there. It's hard to see, but they do cross. So if you don't know how to do this, please write these steps down, the buttons. You're going to hit second, which is the blue button, trace, which is right next to the graph, and you want to find where they cross, so intersect. Second trace, 5, enter, enter, enter. And we get that they cross at 20 and 35. So I'm just going to write that down real quick. So x equals 20, and y equals 35. That's great. That is the answer, but if you give me that, that's not 100% where I want you to go. Because it asks for how many nickels are in the jar and how many dimes are in the jar. So we know what x and y is. So just go up to the very top. Remember how we said x is nickels? Well then, x is nickels. So there's 20 nickels. Y was dimes, so there's got to be 35 dimes. I'm not saying that process is easy, but if you can get better at solving for y, it's going to be a lot easier for you than maybe substitution or elimination if you can get this process down. And we'll work on it. That's what the class is for. Okay? The next one we're going to do really quickly. I'm not going to explain the steps as much, but we're going to go through it. Harry bought 7.3 pounds of apples and bananas for a total of $20.90. I know apples and bananas are not going to be as expensive as I say here, but just go with me. If apples are $3.50 a pound and bananas are $2 a pound, how many pounds of each type of fruit did he buy? Okay, this is a question straight off a test. I think they use like almonds or some sort of food. I don't know. Same thing. Okay, so we have apples and bananas. Again, you could use A and B for apples and bananas, or I'm just going to use X for apples and Y for bananas. Okay, X for apples, Y for bananas. There's a total of 7.3 pounds. So X plus Y needs to equal 7.3 pounds. Okay, don't write pounds, just that's fine. That is a decimal. Make sure you don't put 73. Then how much are apples? Well, apples are $3.50 a pound. So 350x plus bananas are $2 a pound. So 2y equals the money, 20.90. Now, some of you here would want to put like 2.00 for $2. That's fine. It's not going to change your answer. Okay? Now we're going to solve for y. There's no numbers here, so the numbers are 1. If I'm going too fast for you, stop and pause. I'm solving for y, so I get rid of this guy by subtracting 1x on both sides. Those go away. 1y comes down, and I get negative 1x plus 7.3. You divide by 1. Those go away. Y equals negative 1 divided by 1 is just negative 1x. 7.3 divided by 1 is just 7.3. So it's the same thing. That's my first equation. Okay? If you have, and that's a 0.3, make sure that you don't lose that decimal. If you have questions, please pause and ask questions. Next one, draw my line. I'm solving for y, and 2 is y's best friend, so I'm getting rid of this guy by subtracting 350x. Don't lose your decimal yet again, that'll make everything bad for you. These go away. 2y equals negative 350x plus 20.90. Okay, kind of hard to see. That's a decimal as well. And then we divide by 2. I'm going to go to my calculator real quick, and I'm going to do negative 350 divided by 2 to see what I get, and I get negative 1.75. You can do that, or math enter, you could do negative 7/4. I'm going to go ahead and use a decimal since it's not repeating, that's fine. So, negative 1.75x, and then I'm going to do 290 divided by 2. Sorry, there you go, 290 divided by 2. Equals 1045. So plus 1045. So that's our equation. That's solving for y. Okay, we go to y equals. I'm going to clear out the stuff that we just did. And we're going to go ahead and put this in. So I have negative 1x plus 7.3. And the other one I have negative 1.5. Or sorry, 1.75. 75x. Plus 10.45. Make sure these are negatives, not minus, because that's really going to mess you up. Then we go to graph. Let's see if we can find the equations. Let's see if we can see them. I have one line. I have 2 lines. Great. So I want to see where they cross. So second trace 5. Enter, enter, enter. And they cross at 4.2 and 3.1. So x is 4.2. Y is 3.1. And remember up here we said x was apples, so there are 4.2 pounds of apples. And y was bananas, so we have 3.1 pounds of bananas. And there you go. Not easy, I know this was a long video, but this right here, if you can do this, you can do that Unit 7 test, which is probably the hardest test that we have in algebra. Please ask questions. If not, go ahead and go to your assignment and start solving.